You may find yourself needing to pull down code repositories or repositories from multiple host vendors like GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket, the big three. It could be because you're migrating a code base from one vendor to another for your employer, or you need to pull down code repos from different places so that your large language model can scrape the code base for an AI project for your employer. There are many reasons why you need to pull down repos from different sources. Achieving this is quite simple. It is simply a matter of creating and organizing your SSH keys in a pattern that you can easily keep track of. And as you can see here in my Linux terminal, I have set up keys for all three of the major Git vendor, GitHub, Bitbucket, and GitLab, with full privileges on all repos. Most software or DevOps engineers will have at least one set of SSH key pair on their computer when they initially ran the SSH-keygen command to set up their Git repo with full privileges, which would have created the SSH directory that houses all of these key pairs. And as a reminder, the secret key itself is contained within this file here, and the public key within the file with the extension of pub. Generally speaking, the keygen command looks something like this, where we will pass the T flag to indicate that this would be um, the ED25519 encryption algorithm that we will use. Now, this encryption algorithm is recommended by the major three Git vendors, GitLab, GitHub, and Bitbucket. And then the C flag is to signify there will be a comment inbound. And that comment will be an email address as sort of like a reminder of what email address you use as part of your credentials to generate this key. Now, it's a lot simpler if you were using the same work email address for all three of these repos, but sometimes that is not the case. Sometimes, even though it's the repo belong to the same company, it might require you to have some sort of admin email address that's separate from your work email address, or you could have used your personal email address or something to that effect. In that case, the process is a little bit more nuanced. This is the part that usually trips people up when they are installing multiple Git repos from multiple vendors with full privileges, is that they tend to just go ahead and press enter here and get the default, which can lead to all sorts of confusion. So this part here, you would have to put in a custom um, identifier um, for your key, right? And so make sure that you manually type in whatever name makes the most sense to you. Generally, this is the pattern. Another thing is that because I am already in the .ssh directory, I do not have to specify the full path. However, if you were in a Linux terminal, if you're running an SSH tunnel into a Linux machine and you're not in the correct folder, make sure that you're in the correct folder first of all, right? If you're not, make sure that you give it the full path to generate this key. Otherwise, it's gonna be somewhere in Narnia and you might not find, you might have to grep for 5 minutes to figure out where it's located. Once the custom SSH key pairs have been created, you'll notice that there is a file called config. Open this file using either Vim or with VS Code by issuing the code config command. If you configure your VS Code to open from the terminal. Within the config file, you often need to specify the host name, the user, the identity file, which will point to the SSH key, not the public key, but the secret key, to give it the path there to that secret key. And then pro tip, don't forget to save. Please save this file before you exit. And then this will update your known host file. And then from here, if you're using the same email address within your credential of these repos, now you're able to pull and push and make changes to the code repo. Obviously, once you copy your public key for the appropriate vendor and paste it into the UI for the appropriate vendor. In my case, I'm on a Yeesh Linux terminal, so I can issue the pb copy command. If you're on some other flavor of Linux, you can use xclip or whatever mechanism you use to copy and paste. Now, I stated earlier that if one of your repos uses a different email address or credentials, then the approach is slightly nuanced. For example, if your email credentials for Bitbucket is different than for GitHub or for GitLab, what you would do in that case is for the repo to have full privilege is that you have to use the access token. Now, all three vendors have a similar approach, although the placement of the UI might be different within the UI itself, but it's there, with especially the concept of these access token. So then when you initially clone the repository, you need to run it. It's a copy and paste job, right? You need to run it with the um, with the token that they give you once you set up your key, right? Once you copy your secret key and paste it into the UI itself for whichever vendor. In this case, I'm only using Bitbucket as an example. Um, and then you would uh, clone the project with your access token and you would be good to go. You might or might not have to uh, config the user email for the specific email that you use for this particular vendor. I would run it just to be safe. But if you were blocked and you forgot this process, this is why. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, my friends. If this was helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel. It's free, it doesn't cost anything. If you are already a subscriber to my channel, I thank you very much for being a subscriber. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.